drop our own packs for a time. We agree, by gathering together, to tramp this perpetual individual journey together, pointing the way to clear skies and green grass. And in so doing, I believe that we acknowledge that while we each of us have a unique song that is all our own, there are distinctly common threads. We acknowledge that there is something that we can call that transcending mystery and wonder. We acknowledge that we can speak of a world community, of an interdependent web, of truth and meaning, and that when we say it, we believe that these are real things. There's something common to us as human beings in this world, something that connects us even as we live varied and disparate lives. I will not presume to be able to define what that thing is, but I am utterly convinced that it exists. Walt Whitman was writing in the midst of the American Civil War, a time of division, violence, and death, things about which we sadly know a little something in our advanced 21st century. He was writing in a moment when families were torn, when the nation was split, and when so many unique and glorious voices were being silenced or placed at risk. I cannot possibly know what it felt like to be a poet in the mid-19th century, I know. And yet, when I read Whitman's words, I am deeply affected, and I feel that in some sense, these words are mine. Whitman manages, even in a time of utter strife and separation, to write about unifying dichotomies without sounding disingenuous. Young and old, foolish and wise, northern and southern. Of every hue and caste am I, he writes, of every rank and religion. His song is, while his alone, a song of unity, community, and understanding. He claims for himself multiple and mutually exclusive identities, and somehow it works. His song is, in a sense, every song, and he knows this. And I'm going to quote again because I just can't say it as well as he can. He writes, "These are really the thoughts of all men in all ages and lands. They are not original with me. If they are not yours as much as mine, they are nothing or next to nothing. If they are not the riddle and the untying of the riddle, they are nothing. If they are not just as close as they are distant, they are nothing. This is the grass that grows wherever the land is and the water. This is the common air that bathes the globe." It's as if uncovering his song allows Whitman access to that tune which hums just below the surface of existence, to that song that vibrates the web of all being, to the music brought to the world by the wind. By knowing ourselves as deeply as possible, we know the world all the more. Our songs are carried on the four winds, carried with the sounds of the leaves rustling, with the beat of a bird's wing, with the slap of the waves on the shore, with the silent sound of the sun breaking the horizon every dawn and dusk, with the imperceptible creak of the earth turning. Our songs are carried in our smiles, in the small kindnesses and hurts we do to others, in our openness to knowledge, in the very words we choose to use to express ourselves. They are there for us to hear if we listen carefully to ourselves and to others, and if we make use of the support and tools our tradition has given us. And if we listen deeply to ourselves and to the world at large, we can learn to tune our songs, to create a better harmony. And this, I think, is the responsibility we assume when we join a free and active faith. We become responsible for listening carefully and for choosing carefully who we want to be in this life, what song we want to sing. But it's also in this deep listening to the world that we hear the tunes being forced off-key. It's by paying attention that we recognize the silence where there should be voices. If we listen carefully, we can hear that while we may have begun to sing our own songs clearly and boldly, these are disturbed and disrupted by the lack of harmony around us. And this is where faith turns into action. It may be that inside these walls, we learn to know ourselves, we help other Unitarian Universalists to know themselves, and we collectively uncover who we are meant to be. but we have an obligation as individuals and as a faith called to action to sing our songs outside our meeting house walls. And this was the other message that I somehow heard instantly in this carved cursive proverb. This world is out of tune, and there's always a way to help set it right again. While we are not all Van Goghs, our faith does teach us that we all have true voices that have value, and that allowing any to be stifled is standing idly by when we should be acting. We covenant to affirm and promote a world community of peace, liberty, and justice for all. Whether that means hearing the song of the local homeless and hungry and working at a shelter, hearing the song of a friend who needs a shoulder to lean on, or hearing the song of the millions of nameless and faceless people who suffer from AIDS the world over and helping to raise money and awareness, I don't know. That is determined by the uncovering of your own song. Some will be called to weekly protests, others to acting behind the scenes to help thrive the UU community, others to serve as models of kindness, self-awareness, and deep listening in their day-to-day lives. All these callings have worth, they all matter. They all send ripples of correction out into the world. Each of us must uncover and determine the right path to tread out in that wider world. No one can know it for you. But what I do know is that our faith teaches us that we are bound by our conscience and our beliefs to do what we can to make this world more harmonic every day of our lives. And I truly believe that that begins in our Sunday communities and with the commitments that we make to each other. I don't know if I simply misheard the old expression, charity begins at home, or if I internalized too strongly some psychological divinity school lesson, but I've come to believe that in some sense, everything begins at home. Until we tend to what's in our own house, we do no one else any good. And so I truly believe we must, like Whitman, be constantly attentive to our own song, constantly aware of what our songs sound like in the world harmony. Then, we can slowly make our moves outward from here. If I learn to focus on myself and to discover who I am again and again at every stage of my life, aware that it is ever changing, then I am better able to help others figure out who they are, and I am better able to work with strength and centeredness for liberation, truth, and justice. When I stop and really listen to the world around me, I hear so many different layers. The sounds of nature, the sounds of human activity, and the sounds of human consciousness fill every moment of this earth's turning with pain, joy, horror, hurt, and hope. And it seems clear to me that this world needs more of what I've come to call heart-soul music. It needs more people singing proudly the honest and true songs of their deepest beings. It needs more people working to allow the others the space to sing. It needs more people working to create harmonies in a world marked so often by dissonance and discord. As members of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we bind ourselves to learning who we are and to working for that harmony. It is our responsibility and our joy. So may it be.